Well, a group of friends and I decided to band together under a collective name. We're not a company, we're not a corporation, we're not even a business association of any kind. We just call ourselves Defense Distributed. And we want to share with you an idea. This idea is not original. This idea has been had before, but it's an idea whose time has come. And we think we have a way to get there. The Defense Distributed project has developed an idea that we're calling the Wiki Weapon. It would be the world's first 3D printable personal defense system. We're trying to port to the RepRap model. Now, this isn't the first time a 3D printable gun has been suggested as an idea, and that's not even important. The product isn't our emphasis here. What we're interested in producing is a digital file. The file itself, to be shared across the internet. Let me explain. So consider this. A CAD file containing the information for a 3D printable weapon system. If that file was seeded by 30 people, let's say, as long as there's a free internet, that file is available to anyone at any time, all over the world. Now, a gun can be anywhere. Any bullet is now a weapon. But Defense Distributed's goal isn't really personal armament. It's more the liberation of information. It's about living in a world where you just download the file for the thing you want to make in this life. I mean, as the printing press kind of revolutionized literacy, 3D printing is in its moment. And because of that, let's take a look at 3D printing.
Now, commercial 3D printing in plastic has been around for some time, but we're focusing on the hobby printers, the MakerBots and the RepRaps. These usually use spools of filaments, thermoplastics that can be heated up, fed through a deposition head, and printed out in multiple layers of 2 dimensions pretty quickly. Somewhere between 6 to 12 hours, we've created something from ourselves just from a file online. What changes the status quo is the promise of 3D printers like the RepRap that will very soon be able to print 100% of their own parts. So if I have a RepRap printer, I can print out one day a new one for my friend, and so on, multiplying both the means and mode of a new way of production. When a 3D printer then can in theory be anywhere, so also anything can be produced anywhere. For a particular object, the world no longer must rely on limited production chains, locations, and importantly, regulations for certain objects. We break into new economies of scale for the production of goods and essentials. Border distinctions approach irrelevance. With the free and distributed nature of file sharing on the internet, there is no longer the threat that certain information and thus material objects can be denied provision to men and women who need them. A torrent file seeded by a few hundred can ensure that wherever there is a 3D printer or computer, there can be a needed object. This is the backbone of Defense Distributed.
So why hasn't this happened before? I mean, why hasn't it been done? Is it just that easy? I think composite weapons exist and probably have existed for a long time, completely composite weapons. But as for why these things aren't available retail or why gun companies haven't really manufactured them, I think it's that the state of materials as they are right now, there just aren't reliable systems. Companies can't profitably produce something that works and works for a while to at least justify producing it for you. What's great about the Wiki Weapon is it only needs to be lethal once. I mean, that's the idea, right? The fact that it works, if but once, or perhaps only because it works once. We've now crossed the threshold. We're there. We will have the reality of a weapon system that can be printed out from your desk. Anywhere there's a computer, there's a weapon. Our project's also different because we're not trying to make anything profitably. We're not trying to make anything for sale. This thing doesn't have to be successful. It only has to have its promise.
After successful funding, this is how we envision the project proceed. Defense Distributed has developed 2 prototypes. These are Wikiweapons A and B. Wikiweapon A is what we're calling our teaching prototype. It's designed to have no moving parts and be completely electronic in its action. It'll have a solenoid and electronic add-ons after it's been printed, and so in effect, it's only the beta for the fully realized vision that we're talking about. Wikiweapon B is the trickier animal. Wikiweapon B is conceived to have a fully mechanical action and be completely printable if possible, and of course, that makes it the trickier project. But Wikiweapon B's inherent difficulties are the reason we're suggesting this project in the first place. We hope that our teaching prototype, Wikiweapon A, will tell us enough about our current known unknowns, about the qualities of ABS thermoplastics and the heat and pressure limitations of these designs when built around the .22 long caliber, that we'll be able to steam ahead without a lot of wasted effort in materials and experimentation. And speaking of experimentation, we expect that there will be quite a bit. We expect the CAD file for Wikiweapon A to be available within 20 days of successful funding once the project has begun. But we know that time, materials, and the use of capital and consulting with other people will be necessary for the full development of Wikiweapon B. Now is where we talk costs. though we'll only be using open source software for the design and conversion of these CAD files. Our hope is to design these prototypes on the Mojo brand 3D printer by Stratasys. Now that's not a hobby level printer. To the contrary, it's a professional grade machine. But unlike fabulously expensive commercial printers, this one is entry level enough in terms of price and allows a leasing option that we think we can get the best of both worlds and then port our design down to the RepRap or MakerBot standards. So with the cost of our printer and estimating materials costs at roughly $5 per cubic inch, adding in time and the inevitable consultations with third parties, we believe we can accomplish this project for just under $20,000. Now, trying to stay conservative, we'll estimate the delivery of the second CAD file will happen somewhere within 90 days.
Again, this isn't the object that we're producing, but the digital file to be freely distributed across the internet when we're finished. Defense Distributed as a project, I think, is about the preservation of human dignity in a world of accelerating inhumanity. It's about collapsing the distinction between digital information and material goods, and ultimately it may be about that original salvific promise of the free internet. I know that we're not the only people anxious about the state of individual liberty in this world, and though this project isn't exactly predicated upon current events, treaties, shootings, the rhetorical inevitability of discussions about gun rights, I think that this project can be seen as an answer to what's going on. In that sense, every dollar is a statement to these international kleptocrats that this isn't in your control anymore. I mean, you want to announce treaties and new legal regimes announcing greater and greater eras and stratas of gun control, but listen, it's over. You don't understand the world you're living in. We're bringing something else into being. Ambitious language aside, this is an idea whose time has come. And what's so important about this idea isn't us, and that we're willing to step out and say something about it, but simply that it's ready. When this project's finished, if we are so lucky to receive funding, we hope that the idea is stolen. We hope that the file itself is manipulated and changed and improved, and as materials themselves improve, that we approach a system that's completely reliable, completely workable, that is the complete blossom and fruition of everything that we've been talking about. That's coming as well. And we may not be the ones to get it there, but the world will. Information should be free, and it wants to be.